Thanks for joining us for the Long Island Sound podcast. Each week we explore new music and dive deeper with the artists and their stories behind the music. Please subscribe and rate and review us wherever you stream this podcast. Here's your host, Steve Yusko.
Have I got an episode that you're really going to enjoy? I got a bluesman extraordinaire that travels from the UK and the United States back and forth. He's a New York City guy. He's known as the Hitman, Russell Alexander from the Hitman Blues Band. And I tell you, I learned a lot and got some great insights on his life and his journey and his music. Let's take a listen to his very first song, Not My Circus.
I met this lady with a winning smile. We had some drinks and then we talked a while. She leaned too close and whispered in my ear. She said, I hope my boyfriend doesn't show up here.
Say what?
She said her ex kinda lost his mind. Not only that, he was the jealous kind. Special forces till they kicked him out. She looked around to see if he's about. She said, be ready, things might get funky. I said, oh, not my circus, not my monkey. Monkey see, monkey do, monkey see. Yeah, but I ain't you. I got a burger from the all-night stand. This guy walks over with an open hand. He says, hey buddy, could you spare some change? I haven't eaten and I'm feeling strange. I said, pick something, but he shook his head. If you don't mind, I'd rather have the bread. If you could spare just a little more, I'll take us someplace where we both can score. Now I'm no angel, but I ain't no junkie. I said, yo, not my circus, not my monkey. Monkey see, monkey do, monkey see. Yeah, but I ain't you. I like to think that I'm a caring man, and we're all part of a bigger plan. But sometimes when it's said and done, you got to grab your things and run. The general contractor had a worried frown. He said that ceiling's got to come on down. But all his crew had a day of rest, and he was trying just to do his best. He pointed up, he pointed way up high, where even pigeons were afraid to fly. Wants me to climb up there and risk my skin. I said, buddy, I'm just here to plug stuff in. I'd like to help you, but I ain't that spunky. I said, no, not my circus, not my monkey. Monkey see, monkey do, monkey see. Yeah, but I ain't you. Not my circus, not my monkey. Ook. Ook.
everybody. I'm really excited about my guest today. He's a music aficionado, guitarist, a real blues man, and I'm so blessed to have him on the Long Island Sound podcast. And with that, I welcome Russell Alexander of the Hitman Blues Band to the Long Island Sound podcast. Russell, so good to have you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you know what? Everything comes back to the blues as far as I'm concerned. When I started learning guitar, the first thing is learn your blues scales because you can play with anybody. Everybody knows the blues. And coming from New York, we always lament and complain about things. So why not the blues? It's a way of getting out the angst and realizing, hey, maybe I don't got it as bad as the next guy.
Well, the thing about the blues is that people think like blues is always sad. Listen, the blues is rock took its cue from the blues, and the same way that jazz also, to an extent, kind of co-grew with the blues. Jazz kind of predated it a bit, but the blues is about everything. I mean, there's happy blues songs, there's drunk blues songs, there's sad blues songs, of course. There's like optimistic blues songs. There's boastful. I mean, nobody boasts like the blues. You have rap tunes where the guy's boasting. Amateurs, man, because you get lyrics in the blues where you say like, I can heal the sick, I can raise the dead. You don't hear that in too many forms of music.
I was thinking about, and I've got to find the title. This just came to mind. It was an old blues tune about, on the topical side of it, it was about a lady going to the dentist, but it was really about sex. And it was done in the 30s, and it was so cool that every pun you can imagine was in that song about getting your holes drilled and what have you. And yeah. Where else could you do that but the blues, right?
Papa, it's too big, it won't fit. And she's talking about a couch, but it's but the thing was that you had to be very careful what you said because of the censors, and also.
Sure.
You have to be very careful about what you said. A lot of times, the blues was used as a analogy. It was used as a substitute for things like a lynch mob. Like, the blues was coming for me, or the blues chased me down. They're not talking about the blues. They're talking about what they had to deal with, but they couldn't say it. So they would say the blues.
Yeah. So that made every lyricist of the blues a little bit more clever to get their message out,
I'm like a one-eyed cat peeping in a seafood store. Yeah, it's not about a cat.
I tell you, so you're a New York guy. In reading about, you come from a musical family. Your father was a jazz great playing with all the greats. Your grandmother was in Yiddish theater, if I recall.
My grandmother was a classical pianist, and my great-grandmother was in the Yiddish theater.
Oh, that's great. It's amazing how when you come from those kind of roots, how it can permeate your soul and influence you in ways that you don't realize until you get a little bit older,
Well, you gotta, I grew up thinking that being a musician was a normal way of making a living. My friends had fathers who were like proofreaders or bakers or, policemen or whatever. My father, slept until noon and worked until 4 o'clock in the morning. And, very hardworking guy, my dad. And to me, this was normal. This is the way you make a living. You get a nice nightclub tan. And
good fluorescent tan,
and this is like the life.
Right. So now you get that influence from your dad, and if I recall, you started early playing in bands, like 13 or 14, right?
12.
The typical 12. Yeah. Wow, typical gigs. So what's interesting because I've asked other guests.
Back then. I wasn't playing guitar then.
What you were singing? Okay. Then at that point, when did you pick up the instrument? When did that kind of say, this is the direction I want to go in now?
I started playing guitar when I was 13, and I took lessons from Joe Monk, who was just
Okay.
incredible. And Joe, I was horrible, just really a terrible student. I wouldn't practice.
Okay.
We would spend most of the lesson talking, whereas there was another student who started at the same time I did, Mark, I think it's Mark Markowitz, who was always, practicing, and he got all his lessons done, and he ended up being a very well-known and successful jazz musician, as well he should have been, because he's a great player, and I ended up being a broke blues guy. But, there you go. Eventually, I was never one of those guys who would sit there and practice for 4 or 5 hours a day. I knew guys like that, and they were incredible.
Right.
Unfortunately, a lot of them actually ended up having all kinds of problems with their hands because they practiced 4 or 5 hours a day. I mean, we're not all going to be Tommy and Emmanuel. There's just...
Yeah, it's interesting that of the artists I've talked to, some in their teens, they got really obsessive and the guitar was always in their hands and moving it. And like me, I learned the guitar late in life, and thank God for YouTube, and I could see somebody and then I could emulate it. And then I graduated. The reason why I met Mike Nugent is I didn't know the neck, and I felt like an idiot, and I'd like to know what notes I'm playing. I could tell that they were right or wrong or whatever. I still struggle with that, but
well, I mean, good for you, because there was one fellow that I knew, a wonderful guitar player named Larry Miller, who was just an incredible talent. He had no idea what chords he was playing, what notes he was playing, but oh my God, was he great. Unfortunately, he had a stroke, and he had to stop playing, but he's hopefully, doing rehab, and he's got thousands of fans and supporters, and but here's a guy who he didn't want to know, because he felt it would kind of interfere with what he was doing, and he wrote original tunes and he played, and as one guy said, you never knew with Larry, you never knew exactly what was gonna come out.
Right.
Until the moment he hit the stage, you didn't quite know what he was going to be doing.
It's kind of like Dylan with the backup bands. Like Dylan would switch stuff up and change keys and tempo, and just to keep everybody on edge, from what I understand. And that's where the creativity comes out, when that energy is kind of exciting.
I mean, B.B. King told his guys, "I never want to hear you play the same solo twice," because he didn't want it to get stale. Which I can understand.
Yeah, exactly. And I can't imagine doing thousands of gigs, and I can't imagine being a tribute band where you play the same song over and over and over again. Nothing against guys who can emulate other people, but I was just talking with another guest about that. It kind of stifles who you are and what you bring to the instrument and what you bring to the art, or what flows through you. There's another way to look at it.
It's a decision you make. I know a guy who's in a tribute band. They got paid $40,000 to get flown out to Las Vegas and do one set. And then they got their hotel room and they went back in. But, like you said, it is the same thing every time. And they enjoy it. They enjoy what they're doing. They like it. And they'll be glad to do this for the rest of their lives. And that's great. And people love to go see them. And, because it's the closest they're going to get to the real band, because the real band is no longer.
Right.
But, it's not for you, and it's not for me.
So I see the progression where obviously influences of family in your genes to a certain aspect, so I'm a little jealous. You sing, and then...
my bass player just said that to me today. He said, oh, well, you got it from your father. Listen, if I was talented, I would have been... I would have picked up the guitar, man, and been playing and just doing it. I got my ass kicked a lot. There were many, many, many nights I came home from gigs and I just said, I'm never doing this again. I just embarrassed myself, and, I'm not going back. I'm not going to do this again. But what are you going to do? You got to... Plus, I had crippling stage fright.
Really? Interesting.
And, I I had to
Why,
learn.
why is that? Would you consider yourself an introvert or?
It isn't so much that stage fright is
Yeah.
when you have the fight or flight response. You can't do
Okay.
either one of them. You can't fight anybody, and you can't run.
Right.
So now you've got stage fright, and there's nothing you can do about it. So what I learned is that when I get stage fright, don't fight it.
Mm-hmm.
Just accept the fact that it's there. There's nothing you can do about it. Let it wash over you and go on and start playing. The best defense against stage fright is to be fairly comfortable with what you're going to be playing. Know that you're going to... I mean, there'll be times I'll go to a jam session and I'll be waiting to be called up and I'll start feeling it. Like, you know, it would be real easy for me to just leave now and go out the door. But...
Sure.
You know, I recognize it for what it is, so I'll go up anyway, and you know, hopefully not make an idiot out of myself and just do what I'm doing.
Yeah. So you found a coping mechanism.
The coping mechanism is not to fight it.
Yeah. That's I've never heard that before. That's great. You know, it's interesting. I've heard the term "you're a disaster before you become a master" at something, right? And a lot of it's repetition and hard work. And I'll never forget the time, and I'm in my 30s at this point, where a friend says, "Oh, you have a guitar? Why don't you come over and play with a couple of guys?" Okay. I went and played with the guys. I felt like such an a-hole and so horrible that it was a fight or flight thing mentally for me regarding the instrument. Do I take it and chuck it in the corner and say, well, I gave it my best shot? Or do you go, oh man, I can do this. I'm gonna tackle it, and I'm gonna concentrate on it. And I did. I got to a point where I can play songs, even to where the wife says, "Hey, that sounded okay. That wasn't too bad." But we have all different paths when it comes to the instrument, you know.
And the guitar, like every other instrument, it's like digging a hole that widens. Like the more you learn about it, the more there is to learn, and you realize that you're just never going to really. Our lives are too short. You're never going to be able to learn everything. I have stuff like Toby Walker. I bought some of his courses, and oh, my mind just went blank. Andy, great player here. He did a lot of instructional videos. Oh, what did my mind just go blank? But, you know, all these guys, and you look at the stuff that they do, and you say, maybe if I just really work at it, I'll get like 10% of that or 20% of it. But there's just so much to learn on the instrument. You go in so many different directions with it. And
right.
you know, it would take lifetimes to really master it, unless you're a guy like Danny Gatton, who was just like an enigma. You know, or Tommy Emmanuel, who is also an enigma. There aren't many people like that. I mean, they're people who are just born to do this.
Yeah, it is amazing. Hey, let's do this, Russell. Let's just take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk about the song our audience heard, "Not My Circus." When we come back in, I'm interested in what inspired you, how the muse came about, and let's check it out. Hang with us, everybody. We'll be right back with Russell Alexander of the Hitman Band, Blues Band. Be right back.
Looking to rock out to the best of Long Island's music? The Long Island Sound podcast has got you covered. From intimate coffeehouse performances to sold-out stadium shows, we bring you to the heart of Long Island's music scene. Don't miss out on the exclusive interviews with local legends and emerging artists. Subscribe to the Long Island Sound podcast on gigdestiny.com and crank up the volume on your love for music.
Hey, everybody, we're back with Russell Alexander. Hey, Russell, I never ask an artist what this song meant because I really like to keep it open to the audience to make it their own soundtrack. But I'm curious about the song our audience heard, "Not My Circus," how that came about for you. And then I'd also like to talk about, you know, the progression you made from singer, guitarist, bluesman, to songwriter and how that went. So tell me about Not My Circus.
We were on tour in the UK in, I think it was 2016, and our regular bassist, Mike Porter, could not make it. So Paul Gilmore, another local guy, fine player, great guy, did the tour with us. And one day I said something to him, I don't remember what it was, and he goes, "Not my circus, not my monkey." And I was like, "Wait, what?" I had never heard that before. And I said,
yeah.
It was like an epiphany. I think I want to live my life like this. Honey, can you take out the gun? Not my circus, not my monkey.
Ooh.
Can you make dinner? Nope, not my circus. So I said, I got to write a song about it. So I gave Paul partial copyright credit because I wouldn't have written that song, you know. And I just thought about situations that either I had been in or that I knew of from other people where somebody, maybe somebody you barely know, tries to drag you into their own private hell. And what is the only viable response? Not my circus, not my monkey. Sorry.
I'm gonna use that, man. That's a great way to not get pulled into arguments, into their nightmares. Yeah, you just gotta back off and say, I can't unhear this. So I'm gonna put up the stop signs right now. What great advice. So at that point, I'm curious about, was it a gradual thing where you say, I want to write songs, I can write songs, or how did it happen for you?
I started writing songs in junior high school. I was in 7th grade, and I wrote a song, and it was horrible. But, you gotta expect that.
Sure.
And I always liked to write poetry, but I didn't like reading it. It just bored the crap out of me. Because a lot of poetry, you have to get it explained to you because because of the phrasing that they use, and you have to figure out what are they actually saying? What are they writing about? What's the hidden meaning? I am far too lazy for that. So, I liked writing. I liked haikus. I like limericks. I like that kind of thing. So, I love lyricists like guys who I really just love. The Beatles, of course, and the Stones. Paul Simon, who I think is a national treasure.
Absolutely.
Elvis Costello, who's a genius. Gershwin, Ira, I think wrote the lyrics on that stuff. People like Rodgers and Hart and Rodgers and Hammerstein. These people who in Berlin, obviously, and Cole Porter. These people who you don't have to guess what they're talking about. They hit you right where you live. Pretty much all of the things that I write are from my own life. I led colorful. I've lived in interesting times, and so I write a lot about my own experience or about people that I know personally. That I know what their situation has been. And there's plenty of material. There's lots of stuff. You notice people like the Stones, as they got to the point where they became super, super rich, and they really didn't have any real, financial problems in the world, their writing changed completely. And they couldn't write, they could not write a song like Mother's Little Helper or I Can't Get No Satisfaction today. They just can't. It's not in them. It's not where their life's at. But
it's almost like when you're a younger man. I akin it to when you are in survival mode. You're trying to make your way. There's a constant struggle. You have a different angst and a different perspective on things. You're still the same person, but then as you get older, where, I don't worry about that, but now I worry about my health or something. Your perspective changes. And if you keep with the songwriting, you can articulate that. And that's what I love about songwriters is they can articulate things that I'm feeling. And if they're a common man approach, I would say, yeah, I can deal with that. I don't have to figure it out because you're telling me you just got screwed over and now you're unhappy in the most basic terms.
Well, that's what it's really all about, isn't it? I mean, you're writing about yourself, but you're hoping that somebody else can relate to it. I mean, now at our age, at my stage of the game, when I talk about drugs, none of them get you high. They just, we used to live to do drugs. Now we do drugs to live, as they say. But it's a whole different thing. And that's that's one thing that I really love about the blues. No matter how bad your situation might be, by and large, there's probably a blues song about it, which means that somebody not only went through what you're going through, but they made it through enough to write a song about it, record it, and you're hearing it. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, if you think about that too, particularly if you're writing about painful things, okay, and you've immortalized it in music and a song, and guess what? You're reliving. It's like a record that keeps going. You're performing it. That's got to change with you emotionally, but it's still got to strike. I've seen people sing the same song and get choked up because it struck them a different way, because maybe they're thinking about somebody else with that. And I know I'm rambling a bit here, but I think one of the best compliments an artist can get is when somebody comes up to you and says, your original song really touched me, really hit here. Right?
That's absolutely.
That's better than anything else. Better than the roar of the crowd.
Weren't there songs that helped you get through horrible situations? We've all had horrible situations. It's part of living. But weren't there songs that helped you get through it, that you would listen to and turn to, and it just, you might have played it 1,000 times just because it said what you couldn't.
Right. And I'll tell you, I was listening. My wife and I were on the deck yesterday, and she was playing Joan Baez. And Joan Baez, I forgot who she was. She was covering Jackson Browne, okay? And she sang the lyrics in such a way that the lyrics were very crisp to me, and the tempo was slower. So my ears, at that point, listening to the song, I digested that song a lot differently than hearing it. And this is not diminishing Jackson Browne by any means, great songwriter. But all of a sudden, I heard the lyrics, and it kind of touched me. I'm like, wow, I've never heard that song that way before, and I got more out of it in that particular time and place. So it's interesting. And that comes back to when you do music and you put your nuance onto that, whether it's a lick or how you vocalize it or how you find your voice in that song, that can stir different emotions in people. Am I getting kind of wacky about it?
Absolutely. Yeah. And, the first album that I recorded under my own name, under the Hitman Blues Band, I had Johnny Gale was the producer. And I always remember this. I was singing, whatever tune it was, and he stops and he goes, "Who's that guy? I want the guy who sang the line before that. Bring that guy back, because this guy is not sincere." And that's when I realized every note counts. Everything you do, every phrase, every way that you sing, it counts. And you have to be sincere, and you have to be real. You have to believe in what you're singing. And sometimes, oddly enough, the writer of the song might not be able to deliver on it the way that somebody else can. And they can really carry that through and emote. Because that's what it is. It's communication. Some people communicate better than others.
It brings to mind when I love public speaking. And I was up in front of a group, and, I come back to hear what my boss thought of it. And he goes, "Steve, you know what? In person, you're a very energetic, bubbly guy. When I just heard you up there, I didn't recognize you. We're really flat." And I was like horrified, but now I'm extremely thankful, because speaking in conversation like we are one-on-one is different than with an audience or a larger crowd. Sometimes you have to emote, you have to be more emotional, you have to bring your energy up. And And I learned a hard lesson that day with my thin skin, but it was a great lesson to learn.
Yeah.
You know,
and it was worth it. I've had people steer me in directions that it was humiliating, but it ended up making me, better, and a better
Right.
and a better, perhaps a better communicator on stage.
yeah, that's another aspect of things. I mean, you communicate through your instrument, through how you emote a song, but I put people in categories as far as silos. I think there are great musicians, and what they do is very good. Not so good entertainers in that, and I'm speaking from an audience perspective. When I feel that I don't care if I'm in with 500 people or 20 people in a room, when I feel that entertainer has invited me into their world in their room and they're speaking to me, maybe not speaking to me, but I feel like they're speaking
Right.
to me, man, that changes the whole,
And they
the
are
whole
speaking to
aspect
you.
of things.
They are
Yeah,
speaking
of
to
course,
you.
yeah.
That's kind of the point. I mean, I've been in front of large audiences, but I feel like I'm talking to each person because they came to see
That's
us.
the way to do it.
So I'm speaking to them.
Let's do this. Tell me about Every Piece of Me, that song, and I want the audience to hear it because I'm sure they're chomping at the bit to hear what you've got next.
When I introduce this song, I usually say, show of hands, who here has never had their heart broken? And there might be one person, also one guy in the back with a Star Trek t-shirt. But for everybody else, you know that when you get your heart broken, it's not just your heart. It feels like everything inside of you's gotten ripped out. And the song is called
Sure.
Every Piece of Me. Look, we've all had it happen. You're decimated. You're ripped apart. And
Right.
hopefully, you find your way back again. And that's
Right.
what you have to do.
All right, everybody. Let's listen to Every Piece of Me. We'll be right back with Russell Alexander. Check it out.
There were so many times I helped you, and you told me things were alright. But when you thought I was sleeping, I heard you crying in the night. And it's not just my heart that's broken. Oh, it's every piece of me. No, it's not just my heart that's broken. I fell apart when you walked out on me. I know you tried to love me. I know that I was hard to understand. I never really showed how much I needed you, till you had to find yourself another man. And it's not just my heart that's broken. Oh, it's every single piece of me. No, it's not just my heart that's broken. I fell apart when you walked out on me. someone to make you happy. I wish that I had been that man. If I ever find another love like you gave me, I swear I'll never lose that love again. And it's not just my heart that's broken. Oh, it's every single piece of me. It's not just my heart, it's not just my heart. Oh, you know, it's not just my heart. I fell apart when you walked out on me. You walked out on me. Oh, my love, my love, my love, my love. Please, just one time, just for me to touch your hand and see your smile, just to feel your lips fall. I just want out. Won't you please come back? Please come back to me. Just one hour. Just one hour. Oh, my love, my love, my love. Just come back to me. Please come back to me. Oh, it's not just my heart. It's not just
Russell, that was a great song. Every Piece of My Heart we just heard. That too. I like that song. There I go. Screwing up titles again. I'm sorry. So I'm really interested when I was reading what you do as far as going to the UK to play. I find it so interesting. One, how did that come about for you to go across the pond, as they say? And what are the likes and differences with the audiences that you've experienced in the UK versus here in New York?
Well, getting to the UK is entirely thanks to my wife, Joanne. She, in around 2003, I guess, started sending out press kits to people in Europe and the UK, and she sent out over 100 press kits. We got one response. And it was from a guy named Cat Anderson, who had been Steve Marriott's personal manager. And he had a stroke.
All right.
And he got out of the music business for like 10 years. And he decided he wanted to get back into it again. And just at that time, he got our press kit. And he heard it. And he asked us for $400, which normally would have sent up all kinds of red flags.
Yeah,
But
sure.
he wanted to know if we were serious, and this was his way of doing it. And you have to know, Cat. Unfortunately, Cat passed away in 2011 from a brain tumor. But Cat was a real character, and he booked us for 6 weeks, unheard. It was just Joanne and I, and we went to England, and we had to drive 6 hours up to like the border of Scotland. And we met Groove Juice, which was the backing band, and Cat came to the third show that we did, and the deal was Groove Juice would back me up because they would open, and this way they got to go on stages that they would not normally be able to get onto. And through Cat, he was able to sell me because I was a New Yorker, I was American, So not that that's a big deal anymore. I mean, you want to see an American in England or in Europe or in Ireland, throw a rock, you'll hit 5. But but the idea was just, we'll book this guy in. And so Groove just gets on, they finish their set, I get on, I open up with an instrumental, Killing Floor. And because we only had the album Blues Town and Angel in the Shadows out at the time, and then I sing the first song, and Cat turns to Joanne and goes, "Now I can breathe." He didn't know if I could really sing. He booked us for a 6-week tour. He had no idea. Now that was luck. And it was because of Joanne's hard work that we got that. And in fact, I mean, I would not have done any of that because I'm horrible at that stuff. And
right.
And then we went back again, and we went back again, and then we went to Europe. And then we had a bit of a problem. for financial situations, and we couldn't go back until 2011. And the lesson I learned from that is that if you're touring and you stop touring for 4 years, 3 or 4 years, and you're not a big name, you are now starting all over again. And we even had a club owner yell at me. He was like, "You guys, you had such a great following here. Now you got to start all over again." That was at a club in Oxford. This guy was another character. Great guy though. Also passed. So the audience is there. It's not like they go, "Oh, it's an American! Wow!" They see Americans all the time, man. They see everybody all the time.
Sure.
I would like to say that the English audiences maybe listen a little more, but that's not always the case. You know, look, we went to see Dead and Company last week, and these people in front of us did not shut up from the time the concert started until we got up and walked away. And I basically said to some other people in the other row, I said, "Listen, we got to leave. These people are freaking assholes, and they haven't shut up once." And they just like stared in front of them, and they didn't say anything to me. But I was pissed.
Right.
You always get people like, you're going to get people like that any place, I suppose. But we found less of them in England and Scotland. One thing that I will say, we played in France, and we played at this place that was in southern France. And the people were great. They listened, they responded, and the owner told me that the week before they had a heavy metal band, and the same people came in. They'll go to a jazz band, they'll go to a blues band, they'll go to a folk band, they'll go to a traditional, French band, because it seems that on continental Europe, in a lot of places, they just want to hear good music. They want to hear it played well. And they're not as segmented, perhaps, as we are here, where it's like, if it ain't heavy metal, I ain't listening to it. It's, they'll listen to anything, man. They don't care. And very supportive.
Yeah. I found that too, as I've gotten older, I'm used to music of the 70s, and, I have my likes as well, but I didn't want to be locked into just listening to Neil Young, and I love Neil Young. I wanted to open up WFUV in the Fordham radio station. Man, it's a cross-genre type of thing. And then you realize, man, there's a lot of great artists out there. So I've been opened up to some good hip-hop and ska music and reggae and stuff that I wouldn't, I'm not a club goer after 10 o'clock. I got my pajamas on. But, my daughter's like, you got to hear these guys. They do a beatbox guy does these things that are amazing. And I think it's being open to that. And that's what's good about a European viewpoint or perspective on music. Hey, it's all art. I'm gonna take it in.
There are great bands everywhere, but a lot of times when you get older, you just don't want to hear it, and you want to stick with. There's a band we heard here. I think it's MJT? Was it?
Okay.
A Long Island band, a trio. These guys are amazing. If you like John McLaughlin and Frank Zappa, and I know it's a weird mix, but and also like Sade and stuff. You throw that all together. That's what these guys are. They were great. And young guys.
Yeah.
There's stuff happening out there. You just got. When we were younger, we had friends who would say, "Oh, you got to hear this band." You got your daughter saying, "Yeah, you got to hear this band." But for a lot of us, we don't have somebody to turn us on to these things that are going on. And bands come and go like constantly.
Yeah.
But we're missing some really great music out there.
I know. I got to tell you about this one band, and I never would have seen them or been exposed to them without the podcast. They're called Nonstop to Cairo. And these guys are a mix of hip hop and ska and reggae and rock, all kind of mashed into one. And I'm listening to these guys, and it's just like you start moving. It's that they got that groove going to you that it's like, I'm going to enjoy listening to that, and it was kind of cool. So,
anyway. It's just, what we need is we need to get some guide to come out and hip all of us older people to like, hey, you should check this group. We have a friend of ours, their daughter is in a female trio called Choke Cherry. And and this is the first band I ever heard this, that I personally know this happened to. They went viral on Spotify. They went from 0 followers to 143,000 monthly followers in like a month.
Oh my God.
Some guy on TikTok just said, you got to listen to them. And they came to New York and they just did a couple of gigs here and we went to see them. And people, you know, I mean, it wasn't like that they have thousands of people coming to their shows right now, but they're just getting started. And I think a lot of people who are into like 70s rock would probably love them. Like just really love them, man. Especially women, because their lyrics are really woman-centered in a way that's different from 70s lyrics. It's you know, now lyrics, which are more kind of like hopeful and a little more like I'm not putting up with this, but not overtly.
More empowering.
Yeah, empowering. That's the word that I should have been using. Thank you.
Well, what I'm gonna do is in the description for those who are watching and or listening to this, I'm gonna put Choke Cherry in there so you can go listen to what we're talking about, and that's how we spread the gospel of great music.
They only have one song out right now, but they're I heard basically all of their tunes they did live were really good, so I really enjoyed it.
Nice.
You know, there's just so much out there. Now, you know, I know that you're going to be playing one more song from us, Hoochie Coochie Man, right? Right.
Correct. Yep.
Now, with my group, we do a few cover tunes, but we don't do them anything like the original because there's no point in that. That the best we could hope for is to do it as well as the original person did it, and they already did it. So we just do it totally different. So just as like we also like one of the other songs we do is Times They Are Changing, and I preface it by asking people if they're, you know, if they've ever heard of Robert Zimmerman and then, you know, Bob Dylan. And I say, if you're a Bob Dylan fan, you're either going to love this or you're going to really freaking hate it. Because we've gotten both reactions. We've gotten people going, that was incredible, I loved that. And other people like, yeah.
You destroyed that
it's not
song.
like Bobby did it. I'm like, no, it's not.
No, because I can't do it the way Bobby does it.
I don't want to do it the way he did. He did it that way. Why should I do it again?
Right. And you know that ties into, you know, in speaking to my guests is, you know, finding your voice, you know, with your music and your style is another discovery, another journey to take. Because that, I mean, God bless. Some people, you know, they find their voice and their style immediately. Others, it takes a little while to kind of circle around on how they present themselves. Why don't we do this? Since you mentioned it, let's listen to, it's not going to be like you heard it before, Hoochie Coochie Man. We'll be right back after the song. Hang with us, everybody. We're with Russell Alexander.
Just a woman told my mama on the day I was born, you got a boy child coming. It's gonna be a son of a gun. Gonna make all the women jump and shout. And the world gonna know what it's all about because I'm him. Everybody knows I'm him. I'm a Hoochie Coochie Man. Everybody knows I'm him. Got a black cat bone. I got a mojo too. I got Johnny Cockaroo. It's gonna mess with you. Gonna take all the women, leave me by the hand. And the world's gonna know I'm a Hoochie Coochie Man because I'm him. day of the 7th month. The 7th doctor said he was born for good luck. Just you wait and see. I got $700. Don't you fool with me, because I'm here. Yeah, everybody knows I'm here. I'm a hoochie coochie man, and everybody knows I'm here. Here we go. On the 7th hour of the 7th day of the 7th month, the 7th doctor said he was born for good luck. Just you wait and see. I got $700, man. Don't you fool with me, because I'm here. Everybody knows I'm here. I'm the hoochie coochie man, and everybody knows I'm here. Yeah. I'm the hoochie coochie man, and everybody knows I'm here. I'm the hoochie coochie man, and everybody knows I'm here. Oh, yes, I'm here.
We are back with Russell Alexander from the Hitman Blues Band. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
All right. Finally, it took a couple turns, but with a little practice, I can articulate your band name, which is simple, but I'm not that smart. I got to ask you, how did you get the nickname? And I probably have an idea, the Hitman.
A couple of times in my life I got that. I was a freelance musician in the club date field, and the club date field is when you play, weddings and bar mitzvahs and society gigs and all that stuff. And I knew hundreds and hundreds of songs, so I knew all the hits.
Okay.
And it got to the thing where I'd be on a gig, and and I was a freelancer, so I played with a lot of different bands.
Sure.
And they would get a request for a tune that, of course, these guys did not know. And, eventually it started going, ask Russ, he's a hitman. He knows all the hits. And, you know, so I got that name, and I thought, okay, cool. You know, it was fun. You know, nice. Then when I was around late 20s, early 30s, I started going to jam sessions in Manhattan, and there was one place that I started going to called Chicago Blues, which at the time was on, I think, 2nd Avenue and 22nd Street or 23rd Street.
Okay.
And eventually moved down to the Village and was on the west side. But at the time that I was going there, a lovely woman named Lavette Jackson and her husband Mitch were running it. And Lavette had a great voice. And, you know, first time I walk in, she goes, "Hi, honey, I'm so glad you came." You know, to sit down. It's like, holy shit, man, I'm home. And that's when I started wearing not this hat, but another hat. And I always wore a tuxedo because I'm comfortable in a tuxedo. I've worn tuxedos, you know, my whole professional life. And I would have the shades on. I started wearing shades because after one particular gig, they had these lights up for the photographer. Oh. And they were flashing in my eyes all night. And at the end of the night, I literally couldn't see. Yeah, and I said, that's never going to happen to me again. I don't care what anybody says. When I'm on stage, I'm wearing shades. And so at that point, I'm wearing shades. I got this. I walk in the hat, and Mitch goes, "Russ is a hitman. He's Hitman." And I said, okay, that's the second time in my life that I'm getting this. And that became my moniker when it, you know, for that club. And I just said, all right.
I'm going to stick with it.
My name.
It's a sign. That's a sign for sure.
You know, I might be stupid, but I ain't that stupid. So I figured I'd just keep it. And it works.
Amazing. I tell you, I learned so much from you today, Russell. Thanks for, you know, just your experience in the business and the journey that you've taken and that you continue to do is pretty amazing. I really, I got to meet, for those who don't know, I got to meet Russell at the Long Island Music Hall of Fame very briefly. I really look forward to watching you apply your art and play and meet you in person again. And as always,
we're playing. Can I say that we're going to be?
Oh
playing
yeah, please do.
We're going to be playing Westbury at the Westbury Summer Arts Council on July 13th at 7:00.
It's my birthday. That's my birthday.
Happy birthday! That's a Thursday. I believe it's on Post Avenue. It's on our website, which oddly enough is called hitmanbluesband.com. Okay. So you can look at our gigs page. It's over there. And we're going to be having, I'm very, very happy to say we're having Danny Keene is going to be joining us on keyboards because our regular keyboard guy, Mike Katzman, can't make it. And so I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to be nice. It's going to be almost the full band. Normally we go out as 9 pieces, but
really,
we're going to be going out with well, it'll be 8 pieces. The guitar, bass, keyboards, drums, tenor sax, trumpet, and normally we would have a trombone or a bari sax, but we couldn't really swing that for this. And our 2 backup vocalists, Joanne Alexander, my wife, and Nancy Hampton. So, you know, it'll be fun, and it's free. So there you go.
What's better
Mark
than
it down in your calendar, July 13th.
So wonderful.
And if it rains, they have a venue to it's rain or shine.
Wonderful. Well, I tell you, I learned this from a good friend, Bob Murray, who said, you know what, we can account for what we have in our bank and what we own. Can never account for the time we have left. And Russell, the fact that you gave me more than an hour of your time, it was a true blessing, and I really appreciate it.
Hey, I appreciate the invitation, man. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right.
And letting me
rap. Take care, brother. Be well.
Take care.
Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate the time you spent with us. Please subscribe and comment and visit us at gigdestiny.com. Till next time, be generous with your joy, keep your spirits high, and let the music take you on a journey. Be well. Peace.